Aloha and welcome, you guys. Today is Monday, February 26th. We are heading into the very final home stretch of the month, the shortest month of the year, and yet it has been the biggest green numbers that I've seen in quite a while, so that's really exciting. And I just want to welcome all you guys. This is our regularly scheduled morning mastermind. For some of you, it's afternoon already, but here in Kauai, it's 9 a.m. And my name is Sarah. For those of you who are new, let me just check how many of you, if you're new to Purium, if you got started this month, go ahead and type a 1 in the comments. I just want to get a sense of if you just got started with Purium this month. And the way that you can do that if you're new to Zoom is click on the chat button on the bottom. And ooh, yay! Oh my gosh. Welcome, you guys. I just want to totally just extend my arms to you and my heart and my gratitude that you're here. And this is going to be a nice kind of like a foundational principle Zoom here. This is something I'm going to go over that will support you in kind of a little bit of the energetics of what we're doing. Not, this is a definitely a foundational principle that we're going to be going over here. So I want to ask another question here and welcome everybody, all the new there's a caller, I love it. So yeah. I want to welcome all the new people, and I want to ask another question here. So if you have ever planted a seed in the ground, gardened, harvested anything, worked in the earth, and consumed food that you grew, type a 2 in the comments. I just want to see if anybody has ever had experience with planting a garden. Okay, yeah, great, me too. Oops, I'm not chatting here. Yeah, okay, great. So we are going to talk about today our Purium garden. We're going to talk about our Purium garden, and we're going to talk about creating not just a garden, but actually creating an orchard, creating a forest, creating a long-standing, resilient, deeply rooted community of trees / people who are going to be able to bear fruit and continue to create seeds that will continue to grow long term, so that we and the people that we love and care about and are working with can harvest long term what we're doing here, right? So that we can all receive the benefit for a long time into the future, not just a flash in the pan, right? Like, whoa, I did it for a minute and then it got hard or whatever, and it didn't continue, right? So we are looking for longevity here. So one of the what I want to bring in is this little mantra, right? There's this little, well, not mantra, but a little saying, which is persistence will get you what you want, and consistency will allow you to keep it, right? When you're persistent, you get what you want, and when you're consistent, you get to keep it. So we're going to be talking about consistency today, and it is the end of the month. Permaculture food for us, yeah. We can be permaculture network marketers right here, right now. We're going to do this long term. We're going to do this in a sustainable way, in a harmonious way, in an uplifting way, so that everybody can benefit long term. So I want you guys to kind of think about that right now you're standing in front of a field, okay? You have this beautiful couple of acres of land that's empty, okay? And you are going to plant, what are you going to plant in that? I just want to see some ideas. Like, well, if you had 2 acres of raw, of fertile, empty land, what would you plant in it? What would be your salsa garden? Woohoo! I think I might plant some flowers personally. Everything, right? Everything. Okay. So I want you guys to picture that you have this beautiful piece of land, and you've got a bag of seeds, right? You have this big bag of seeds, and you're gonna go out there and you're like, I'm planting my garden. This is gonna be amazing. I'm so excited. This land is ready. I have my seeds. I'm gonna plant a herb garden with some carrots and tomatoes on the side and maybe a little couple flowers and maybe some papaya trees. I'm gonna do it all. So I get ready, I go out into my land, I take my first seed and I put it in the ground, and then I sit next to it. Okay, I planted my first seed. Woo! And I go and I just like sit down next to it and I take my watering can and I'm like, okay, I planted my seed, I'm gonna water it. Okay, seed, grow, seed. And then I'm watering it and then I'm like, okay, it's been 2 hours. I've been sitting here for 2 hours and my seed, I don't see it growing yet. What's going on with my seed? Is this seed broken? Maybe it needs more water. I start pouring more water on it and I'm like waiting for another 30 minutes. Okay, where's my seed? This is starting to worry me. I'm having some issues with my garden. It's not working the way I thought it would. So then I like take some time and I dig up the seed and I pull it out and I look at it. I'm like, it's not growing yet. And then I put it back in the ground, right? So does anybody ever feel like your business kind of feels like that a little bit? Like you talk to somebody and they haven't called you back, or you sent a message, or you enrolled somebody and you're like, plugging them into the calls and they haven't done anything yet, or they're not responding to you. Does anybody ever feel a little bit like that? Just type a Y if that resonates with you. This idea of like, I'm doing something, I planted my seed, but nothing's happening yet, right? Okay. Yeah, that happens to me too. I'm like, what is going on? Okay, so, okay, Rochelle. Great. Yeah, this is a common feeling, right? Actually, I just was hearing from somebody the other day. It's been 4 months and like, I'm, like the amount of output that I've been putting out there, like it's not happening. I'm not getting the return yet, right? So if you guys go out and plant a seed, and you guys can just kind of pop off mute here. If you're going to plant a garden, what is the strategy that you use to go ahead? I want to hear from some of my farmers here. What is a strategy that you use if you want to plant a big piece of land? How do you go about it? What is your vision around that? Noam, I see you leaning in there.
Yeah, I farmed a lot of farms. This is definitely an analogy that strikes pretty close to home for me. And you know what I thought of? I farmed 500 acres, and I farmed a fifth of an acre, and I most recently farmed about 15 acres. The first thing that I do before I do any of that is I kill everything else and eliminate all distractions, to be honest. The first step isn't even the first step. The first step is to focus on what you're gonna do, because the plant grows easily on its own if you set up the right conditions, I will say. When you farm, actually through multiple years of farming, just to get really philosophical on this, a true farmer, if you ask them if they grew plants, would say, no, I've never grown one plant. I don't grow plants, ever. I grow a healthy soil, a fertile farm, so that any seed I put into it can grow easily on its own. And every year at the end of the year, my benefit that the soil and the organism of the whole being that I'm growing rewards me with these plants that grow. So the more that we're on these masterminds, the more that we eliminate distraction, and the more that we make our internal environment conducive for a seed to want to grow towards, then we're already dramatically increasing our chances for all those seeds to grow and be healthy.
Awesome. And so
I love farming, so I'll just cut myself off right there.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. So once you have your fertile soil, and I have someone asking, are we the soil? No, are we the soil?
Well, I don't think we are the soil. Purium and the platform that we have here in this opportunity is the soil. And the way that we're making it fertile is that we're understanding what the platform, the system, and the tools are. And the way that if I can't tell Sarah what it is, then I haven't really created a good condition for her, even if I know it. Okay, so I need to make sure that I can express to Sarah in a way that she understands and feels safe, if she was my prospect, why this soil is safe, that there will be the perfect amount of water, but not too much. If you need more, just ask and we'll bring you a bucket, or turn on the irrigation. But the overall platform is the farm. And I think that the fertility of the soil are the tools that we've created on our team. Whereas there may be another team in Purium on some other part of the planet that they don't have these tools. So they have the same field of Purium, but their soil is not as fertile. Seeds planted in that soil won't have as good of a chance. Seeds planted into our soil and the nutrients, the fertility, and the water are our tools, our masterminds, our community, our videos, our Facebook funnel, our team fast start modules. All these things are adding fertility, nutrients, care, and coddling for the young seeds to give them the best chance to grow. So the more we understand and utilize all those things, and that we allow those that are new in our organization access to them in a fun way, so they can grow and lean into them, just like a plant would lean into the nutrients or the sun or the water. It's not going to run away from good water. Then we're going to give everybody the best chance to germinate and grow. And I think for a seed, the hardest part is germinating. Some seeds wait for 3,000 years. So it's got to feel pretty good to break its shell, because once it does, most seeds have one chance. But if that seed can just put a couple leaves up and get past the first couple weeks, plants easily grow on their own into the light.
Woo! Awesome. Thank you, Farmer Gnome. I love it. Anybody else have anything that is coming up? Okay, so now we've gotten the information on. Okay, go ahead, Mare.
Yeah, I think that one of the things when I've worked on a couple of different farms is thinking about the yield that you need in order to supply perhaps the restaurants that you're offering your produce to, or the farmers markets or the CSA boxes, and really thinking ahead to like, what are the results that we need, and then working backwards from there. So if I know that like arugula, for example, you need to plant it has a certain amount in an amount of space. So and I know that restaurant needs 30 pounds a week, and that restaurant, and just taking the end results and then working backwards, and just thinking about our business. Like I'm thinking about, okay, if I want to hit diamond next month, then I need to be really clear that I'm planting enough seeds for diamond and not just executive, and really working from that sort of perspective.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thanks, Mare. Anybody else? Like, let's say, okay, so now we know how many seeds we're going to plant. We have our soil that's all fertile. And so now what's the strategy that we go out there with? Anybody have any? What are you going to do with your fields? Come on, you guys.
Well, I think it's important when planting. I don't know if this goes with the level that you're at here, but I think it's important from a permaculture point of view to see how different plants support each other. So if you need shade for these little lettuces, tender lettuces, and you know that they are going to get burned in this Hawaiian sun, then you want to plant a tree or a plant that is going to have some height to it that can keep it from getting blasted all day long. And so there's layers. Thinking about really design of the garden so that everything is mutually beneficial is important in that planning part. And what that means is that there's also a lot of patience that it takes. So as you can't just necessarily plant this one crop and hope that that's the thing with monocropping, right? You plant this one crop and do everything that it needs, and meanwhile it's not able to sustain itself and you're having to work really hard. I think it's important when planting the garden to make it kind of like Noam was saying with the soil, but also in the design of the garden, so that we don't really have to work that hard. It's really supporting itself. Different plants are fixing different nutrients within the soil in supportive ways for each other. And then, you know, the rain comes and the sun comes and they, different plants hold water for others, and they really can be supportive if we really give them kind of organization to be supportive in that way. Yeah.
Awesome. And so that's like, so we have our team, right? We have our up team. We have the layers and levels of leadership that happen in here, right? We have, if you're like a little baby lettuce plant in the middle of an empty field, and like the sun is beating down on you, and you're like out there on your island all alone, like, I'm trying to grow out here, but there's barely enough water, and like, the wind is blowing me around, right? But if you're like nestled into a nice garden and you're leaning on your support system, you're getting that accountability support, you're getting shade, you're getting, the protection from your upline, you're growing up and providing that protection to your downline, that support, that's another awesome, beautiful piece. I mean, this is fun. I'm like, let's plant our garden, everybody. Anybody else have any beautiful images around this garden that we're growing? Ashley, I know that you were, go ahead.
I'll share. While I am just like been kind of moving around, but in the past, I remember this like one specific tree that I planted, and it's an ulu tree or a breadfruit tree, which one tree, all those fruits will feed like an entire village. And so I had this baby tree and brought it home, and it came with like a list of what it needed in order to like grow the best that it could. So I followed that list, digging the hole, and got silt from the river and fertilizer, and like made this amazing like perfect hole for it, and planted it, and then covered it, and every single day like babied this tree. And I ended up moving. It was about like a year after that, and this tree had grown taller than me, and then 2 years later it's fruiting and providing food for the family that's still living there on the land. But compared to other trees that didn't receive that like initial hole with everything it needed, and really was babied and like danced and comfy all around it. So it was like planted in perfect conditions, and now it's rooted and fruiting all on its own with very little care.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love that, Jessie. So that idea that if we plant our seeds in this fertile soil, and we really give our new team members, right? Because this is, just to kind of like, I know you guys are catching the vibe here, but we're talking about our business as a garden, right? So we have these new seeds that we plant, we have these team members that we plant, and we bring them in, and if we give them that really at the very beginning of their life in this journey, if we give them that type of care and support, they're going to grow and they're going to become leaders. They're going to be these abundant trees. And Jessie, I know that an ulu isn't really the best example of this because they kind of reproduce in a different way, but does anybody have, how many seeds can one healthy tree produce?
Hey, Sarah.
What's up, Gnome?
Well, I was just thinking about this when you were saying the last thing. And I was thinking, what happens in all my gardens, whether there's herbs or trees or whatever, the plants that get the most success earlier on, and the plants that find the conditions to be the very best and that really excel eventually, like in my garden, it was always calendula. I look in the spring and I've done nothing, and my field is a solid sheet of calendula. And there they've gone. The 20 plants that I planted have made like 50,000 of their own from their own seeds without me doing anything. And so at a certain point, the good work that I took for one season, I actually had a number of years on a commercial farm where for our calendula crop, we stopped planting them and planting them out, or even direct sowing them. We actually just ran like a disc through an acre of field, and then plowed out where we wanted the rows, where we wanted everything to die. And everything that was left was calendula every year, because they just keep planting and planting and exponentiating and exponentiating. And so I really saw how if we can do our best to make some really healthy plants and give them a lot of love for 1 or 2 seasons, ideally those plants may go on to do quite a lot more than even, we can help them to do without us doing very much at all. And that's the power of duplication.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. Beautiful. So how many seeds are you going to plant in your garden? Let's say, and we did hear someone here responded to me that a single tree can make an infinite number of seeds. One single tree, and we have our seeds are our gift cards. You can actually get gift cards that have seeds in them. They're coming out, for those of you who have been wondering, just a side note here, that a bunch of the brand new brand partners didn't get gift cards because we ran out of the plastic gift cards with the $99 launch packs. We blew out all the gift cards. So they are making, and we'll be sending out soon to everybody who didn't receive gift cards, cardboard, cardstock, recycled, high environmental integrity gift cards. Now, if you want to get even more high environmentally integral, you can actually order gift cards from Purium that are like handmade paper with seeds in them. They have the old logo, unfortunately, but you can plant those and they will grow. So we have our gift cards are our seeds, right? So we can have one plant, one tree that can make an infinite number of seeds, and then each one of those seeds can go on to create a plant or a tree that creates an infinite number of seeds. And so that's where we can start to really see this. This is a cycle that occurs in nature, that it's very natural, it's very beautiful to see this fractalization, this momentum that happens. I don't know if there's a plant out here called noni. And noni is it's a very, very healing and very stinky fruit that actually smells like rotten socks or something. It's really interesting. It looks kind of like a little alien grub with like all these eyes. But there's a valley out here in Kauai, out in the back of where very few people, it smells like blue cheese, that is full of noni trees. It's like the whole place is full of noni trees because the noni is just reproducing on its own. It's just out there, and you go out there and it just smells like noni everywhere. So, there's this amazing way that when we give a plant, when we give someone the right start, when we really plug them in, when we have this fertile soil and they're receiving the nutrients, that they can, that they can go on to grow. Okay, so I'm seeing, all right, so let's go into this idea. Okay, so how many seeds are we going to plant? Anybody have any idea? You have your empty acre. How many seeds are you going to go out there and plant? Are you going to plant one seed and wait for it to grow? Anyone? I'll take that. Everyone who doesn't respond. Okay, how many?
No, you're going to go plant a ton of seeds.
Okay.
Lots and lots and lots of seeds, because a lot of them will not sprout or make it. And typically when you are gardening, you go and you plant. Also, hi, everyone. Hi. Thanks, Sarah. I love this call. I love this analogy. I love that we're all gardeners. No, if you want to grow a really prolific garden, then you go out and you actually plant a lot of seeds, and to the point where you usually even have to go through and thin out your seeds, or they thin them out. They kind of will thin themselves out, but then you go and can thin out your seeds and really give your time and attention and love to the ones that are showing strength and are showing they're growing, they're leaning towards the sun, all that good stuff. Anyways, I gotta hop off. My little ones are screaming in the background, as you can hear. Mom life over here. Okay, love you guys.
Right, so especially when we first get started, okay, and this is what I wanted to bring in here, is this idea for all of those brand new, beautiful people who put all of our newly sprouting seeds that are here, that are in this little field, and there are our baby plants growing up, is that when you very first start to plant your garden, if you plant one seed at a time, one seed a day, one seed a week, one seed a month, how it takes usually at least 3 months for certain, plants. And when you're doing if you're planting an orchard, it can take years before a seed will fruit, right? Before a seed will bear fruit. So whatever you're planting in your garden right now, it's not going to grow and be able to be harvested for a few months. Typically, there may be a few that sprout up quicker, and every seed has its own time frame, right? But what I've seen sometimes is that people will come in and they'll plant like a few seeds and they'll put them in the ground. They'll reach out to like a handful of people, and their garden, because they only planted a few of those seeds, like we know not every seed will make it. Actually, usually it's a pretty high percentage of seeds that won't make it. And there's some plants, I think white sage is one of them, that it's got a really low percentage of germination. Like there's not like, if you have to plant a lot of seeds to get one plant that's going to live, right? And so just thinking about, if we go out into our garden and we're like, I'm just going to plant 5 seeds today, like I know 5 people, right? This is part of why we have to have this big list so that we can share with a lot of people. And then the ones that are going to be hardy enough, the ones that germinate, then we're going to start to work with them. But if we only plant a few seeds at the very beginning, and this is this idea of launching or relaunching your business, is going out there and like planting your acre, planting your 10 acres all at one time as fast as you can. And I heard somebody say, that they're overwhelmed, feeling, I have felt overwhelmed by planting too many seeds that I'm able to tend to. Okay, so that's a good problem to have, I would say. And again, like if we use the system, if we have that soil that's so fertile and we can really plug people in, we can plant people into fertile soil, then there's going to be less work to do. But if we're going around and going like, okay, like I'm going to like, if I have them all in little pots instead of in the ground, it's a lot more work. I have to give them a lot more water. They're not getting that deeper level of information from the earth, from the soil. Like it's not all interconnected, like Noam said, this organism. So we want to make sure that we're planting our seeds into the soil and not just like holding little pieces of earth, like little pots, and trying to carry them all and take care of them. But it's essential to plant a lot of seeds at the beginning. And then, as I was saying at the beginning of this call, you have to tend to them consistently, because what happens if you plant like 1,000 seeds and then you don't water them for 2 weeks at the very beginning? Anyone have any ideas? If I go plant my garden, jump in, you guys. Let's have a convo here. What happens if you don't water your seeds?
Sprout.
Huh?
They probably won't sprout.
They dry up. Yeah, they dry up and die. So how do we water our seeds in this business? Anyone have any?
We can support them with resources.
Mm-hmm. What kind of resources? Drip. Anybody else? Or anyone have any resources? What do you guys do once you share with somebody? What's your system? Walk me through your system, somebody. Once you share with somebody, you plant that seed. Then what do you do with it? Let's share voices here. Nova, you want to jump in? Or Erica?
I'll jump in here.
Hey.
So, hey, I'm even going to pop on video for this one. Yeah, it's great to be here and to really tune in, take a break from multitasking. And I feel super thankful that this $99 launch pack sale has brought in such a huge welcoming of new people. And I've been finding a big part of my energy in the last couple weeks has been really supporting new people to grow. And what I've appreciated and that I've seen has been working well has been staying in touch with them, like reaching out to them almost daily, people that I'm wanting to support their growth, and asking questions and really listening, like hearing what is their vision, what would they like to have happen. And even since they don't like know everything, they might not come in with like a huge game plan and this is what I want and this is how I'm going to get there.
to like help them have that expanded sense of seeing what's possible. And I've been really utilizing connect calls and plugging people into the team and getting them on text and messenger threads with our upline, and really just sharing a number of community bonding and tools, what's possible. And to, once we hear from them, really learn to support them in the ways that they're asking for support and help them with like the next step and the next step, but to continue to plug people in, lift them up, keep them into the community, introduce them to our uplines, and just staying connected, you know, because people don't know what we have until we share our story and help them to see the vision.
Awesome. Thanks,
Yeah.
Erica. Yeah, so that's exactly right. Like plugging them in, helping them feel connected. And it's very important. And this is a really fun place to take this right now. This idea, what happens if you okay, so plants need a certain amount of water, right? And it's possible to overwater a plant, just like it's possible to underwater a plant. So we have this incredible like dance that we're entering into with all the people that we're working with. And it's the same with our prospects, and it's the same with the people that we've just enrolled. It's all the same process. It's all the same underlying frequency. It's the same energetic principles that we want to drip on them, but we don't want to drown them. Right? So if you have someone who like, you know, every day you're like, oh my God, are you going to do period yet? Oh my God, this is so amazing. Like, let's do this together. And you're just calling them and calling them and calling them. You're kind of like a little bit more entering into like hunter territory than farmer territory, right? And nobody likes to feel like prey. Nobody wants to feel like prey, like they're being hunted, like they're being like, you know, people love to feel like seeds, that they're planted in this beautiful space and they're allowed to grow at their own time. But we can overwater, right? Like I was saying at the very beginning, like if I plant one seed and I'm going like I'm like breathing down that seed's neck and I'm all, when's it going to grow? When are they going to say yes? If I start to feel personally in my process, like I'm really thinking a lot about a single person or a couple people, and I'm like, I start thinking like, why haven't they called me yet? Did I do something wrong? Did I freak them out? Have I been too like, right? If I start to get into that scarcity mentality or that scarcity place within myself, within how I'm thinking about people, I know right then and there, that's my internal signal that lets me know that I have not planted enough seeds. If I start to get too deep into my process around a handful of people, boom, they're feeling it. If you're feeling it, they're feeling it. They're probably feeling a little bit like, whoa, like, you know, and not always. I memean, sometimes we can project, like I've like reached out to them 10 million times and they like haven't even seen any of the notifications and they have no idea that you're, you know, even doing period. But often if we're feeling like, you know, there can be this sometimes feeling of like, wow, like maybe I'm like overwatering this person right now, right? So in that case, that's the signal right there, and you guys can really like soak this in. This is a really important piece right here. If you're feeling like people aren't responding to you after you've been reaching out to them multiple times, go out there. That's your signal. I need to go out and plant my field. I need to go out and reach out. And when you're planting, it's really this idea of exposures. And this is the magic number that I want to bring in here. And I said in my post, the magic number is that it usually takes at least 7 exposures. And we can think about it here as maybe watering. 7 drips, 7 exposures to something minimum. And it can be, you know, actually there's a little meme I'll post here if anyone can find that little meme that's like 1% of all sales are made after the first exposure. Like 3% are made after the second, and it goes on and on. And like 82% are made after like the 30th exposure or something like that. And then same with the follow-ups, right? if you follow up one time, it's very, and then, so that was like one of the statistics on one side, and the other side was like, 93% of people only expose one time. Like 90, in terms of Purium, if we're going to say that, 93% of Purium people only reach out to someone one time. And if they don't get a yes in that moment, they stop talking to that person about it. Has anybody ever done that? Reached out to someone and stopped reaching out to them because you didn't get like an affirmative, like, I'm ready for Purium right now. Yeah, let's do it. Sign me up, right? The exposure process. Okay, Rochelle's feeling me on that one. Anybody else? Type a Y if you ever have gotten into that space of like, they didn't say yes to me. Like, I'm not going to keep talking to them about it. They obviously don't want it, right? So it takes time. It takes consistency. This is a long-term project. This is not a one-day deal where you plant your seeds and then all of a sudden they all sprout and you're like eating carrots and tomatoes the next day, right? It's not like you plant your lemon tree or your orange tree and 3 months later you're eating oranges. It's a long-term process. Some of the plants that we plant are going to grow faster. Some of them are going to grow slower. Some of them are going to need a lot more care, a long-term care, and some of them are not. And that's just the way that it is. Just like if you have a rose bush, right? Some of those roses are going to blossom sooner. And some of them are going to blossom later. And you're not looking at your rose bush going, I wish they would just all bloom at the same time, right? I wish there weren't any buds on this tree. Like, I just want it to be all flowers, because if they all bloom at the same time, then they're all going to die at the same time, right? So we want to be having this blocked. Oh, Grace, did you want to jump in? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm just checking the here.
Sure, I'd love to just speak into what you're talking about right now, Sarah, because I know that there is this tendency for many of us to, I feel like once we've presented the opportunity, if somebody doesn't, show up for that we either get, like you said, kind of over on them or just, leave them alone. But I just want to say that my biggest builder, Lindsay, who is a diamond in my organization, she was probably the second person that I talked to about Purium, maybe like the second or third person. And she had an interest and even had looked at Amazon. And I had because she had looked at Amazon, I came back with you don't want to do that, sister. You definitely want to come on with da-da-da-da-da. And really in an overexcitement, I guess. And she basically asked me to not talk to her about Purium again. She was like, just, you know what, I'll do it if I'm ready. Please don't mention it to me again. I got the message.
Can I pause you right there, Grace, for a second? Yeah. Let me just ask everybody, has anybody else had that experience at any point in time when someone's straight been okay, I don't really want you to talk to me about this? I have. It's only happened a few times, but I totally have. Okay, go ahead, Grace.
Yeah, so then a year later, Lindsay reached out to me and she was like, I'm ready. I feel like I'm ready to do this. And she came on with a launch pack. And I was a little bit hesitant. She's like, I'm ready. And I was like, oh, I'm going to really pace with her and take it nice and slow because I don't want to overwhelm her. But she got it. She caught the vision of the business, and she had a really great transformation, 2 transformations kind of back to back. And she's now my biggest builder. So it's just a testament to this process of dripping and pacing and really hearing people and knowing that we have something really incredible, and everybody's going to ripen in their own time. So I just wanted to share that little tidbit.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace. And that's a beautiful example of part of another piece that I really have learned over the years, or have observed over the years, is that oftentimes, and I've said this before, oftentimes the most resistant, worst prospects, the most why are you talking to me about that pyramid thing? I'm blah, 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 right? And they're just I don't like it. That was where I was personally when I first started hearing about Purium is like, I was like downright like mean, and I was maybe not mean like verbally, but internally, my internal verbalization, my silent verbalization was like get back, get away from me. Like, I do not want your MLM. Like, I'm not into that. I don't want to do that. I don't respect that. Like, I had my own triggers around my own family and what had happened in my life when I was a child. And I had my story. And my story was like, back away from me. And I was like, I would like run. And my theory behind this is that, and I've had other people have not like, again, not like verbalizing that to me, but like energetically been like, psh. And my theory is that, just like, and we're kind of going to break from the gardening analogy right now, although, we could still go through that like a lot of times those seeds that take the longest or that are the most resistant, like Noam said, there's some seeds that take 1,000 years or thousands, and they have to have just like they have to go through like a forest fire in order to sprout, right? They need fire, they need something. And oftentimes it's like the old growth, the slow growth, those deeply rooted trees that will live for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that take the longest, that are the most resistant, because they're like, they're the ones, like they're like these, they're going to grow into these massive trees, and they have to know that they're in the right condition. I also think about it like this, that in our ancestors' times, like way back in the day, when everyone was foraging and hunter-gatherers, and our ancestors were nomadic and just eating whatever was growing, barks and roots and berries and things. When they went into a new place, when the tribe would move into a new place, they wouldn't just go ahead and look on the ground and be like, oh, like there's berries over there, I'm just going to start eating them, right? They're not going to go grab a new plant they've never seen before and start eating it instantaneously, because plants can be highly toxic. They can be highly poisonous. And if we don't know what we're eating, we can die, right? So while, that has changed over the ages, and we're not necessarily, eating that same way, that instinct still remains. And it's the instinct to keep us protected from newness. Okay, and this is part of the reason that the exposures is so important, because it takes time for someone to be able to drop their like underlying fear buybacks, like that instinctive fear to newness. It takes some time to be able to like observe the animals. Are they eating those berries? Like observe the neighboring, people that are living there, like watch and see what's happening. And it's usually, this is my theory, this is like my observation, is that a lot of times it's the leaders in the community who everyone's looking to, kind of like if we look at this analogy of, way back in the, it was the chiefs and the shamans and the people who had that next level of knowledge, who were the ones who would start testing things out. They would be the ones, because everyone in their community was looking at them. And if they're just like, yeah, go ahead and eat those blueberries, like, I don't like, go for it. And it's nightshade, their whole community is going to die. Right. So that it's the leaders that sometimes take longer to say yes, who have more resistance in the beginning. And not to say like if you said yes right away that you're not a leader or anything, but I've just kind of seen this, this happen, exactly what Grace is saying, that like sometimes it's the people who are the most who have, sometimes that resistance can really manifest in people who have strong leadership skills and qualities, and who are like, yeah, like, and once they say yes, they've taken all that time, they've really sussed it out, they've taken the time to like try it and to make sure that it's safe for them and their community. And then when they say yes, they just go for it. And that is really, was my experience personally, is I waited a long time. I was very resistant, very negative. I was like a mean prospect. And then when I got my yes, I was just like, okay, I'm doing this. And, you guys can see how that worked. So Noam, did you want
to jump in here?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mom.
Hi,
Hey.
everyone. I'm loving this call because I always use the seed analogy like all the time. And I'm sure I gathered that from you, and you just being such an amazing mentor, Sarah. But as you were just saying, I'm sure some of you have heard the story of me, but I'm Green Diamond with the company and direct to Sarah. And, the same thing was for me. Like, I was so resistant. I was annoyed with Sarah. I was just like, oh my God, like, I don't want to do this Purium thing. I'm not into it. I'm healthy already, and I don't need these powders. What are these plastic containers? And, I mean, I have a long story that I'm not going to go into right now. I'm sure some of you have heard it, but it took me a long time. And I even actually finally ordered, and I actually returned my cleanse afterwards. And Sarah was like, oh my God, and then it still took me another year to actually do it again and have a different experience, which then was a better experience for me. And that's another long story why it wasn't the best experience for me. It wasn't so much the products, more of just not being ready in myself, and I have those high values, as so many of us do. And I really wanted to make sure Purium was like exactly what I was looking for, and in those highest standards, before I was going to share it with the people that I loved. And so it took me even another year after that of like dipping my toes and planting seeds, but not, fully committing to my garden. Some of those seeds I was nurturing, and there was things happening, but, not at I remember even having moments of being like, this is taking so long. Like, why, this isn't working for me. Like, this isn't for me because it's not working for me. But looking back at it, I wasn't really consistent with planting those seeds. And because I hadn't really made that commitment to my garden. I was just in that unclarity space with it all, and wanting it and not sure if I wanting it, and, putting my energy elsewhere. So, it was almost 2 years after starting Purium, maybe a little less than 2 years, before I finally got my yes. And as soon as that yes came, like, boom, things started happening in my garden and blooming. And, most of my builders, I'll even say most of my builders direct to me, were watching me for a year, just like as a lot of you have experienced and are hearing people say. It really took them a year to watch me and probably feel my yes coming through my being with me physically, but also just my sharing and my growth in my garden. For me personally, my own growth within my own garden right now. So I love this analogy, loving this call. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Mana. And this is, and when Monica says that she got her yes meant she went out, like, basically what that translated to was she got her yes and she dropped her resistance to planting massive numbers of seeds at one time. And she was like, that barrier broke for her. And again, it was a long time of her kind of like leaning into it. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, she found a new place in herself of inspiration and courage to be able to go out there and share with people. Right. And so I just want to bring in really quickly, and then I'm going to let Ashley and Noam share, but that at this point in the month, this is so incredible that we have this monthly cycle within our business, because every month at the close of the month, we start to get this opportunity to lean in to our resistance, to our fear, to our whatever it is, that block. And we have this like this kind of almost like an external push to reach a place that we haven't been yet. Right? So it's like, okay, I'm coming to the end of the month. I have all these points. Like, I don't want to let these points disappear and restart next month with 0. I want to use these points to get myself to consultant, director, executive, diamond, whatever it is. And that in that time at the end of the month, we can get braver. We can, like, because we're like reaching for something, it's like, oh, my goal is right there. Like, I'm not just going to drop it. Right? And so there's this extra like support of bravery that happens. And so right now, where we are in the end of the month, this is the perfect time, if you guys haven't done this already, but this is like, this is the time when we really want to dive into our back office. We really want to go ahead. And if you don't know how to do this, please reach out to your Up Team Diamond and make sure that you get the download on this. But you want to look in your team or for yourself and say, how close am I, or are the other people in my team, to reaching a K club? meaning 1K, 2K, 3K, and getting that $50 bonus? And how close am I or are my people to reaching consultant, director, executive, or reaching a rank, and then getting in there and supporting? Because if I'm about to like have an achievement, that's the time that I'm going to go ahead and like reach out to people who I was afraid to reach out to before, right? Like, I mean, Monica's still on my screen right here. And like, I remember when she went diamond, she started like calling all these people that she just like picked up the phone. She's like, you know, a few, like maybe like 1,000 points away or something. And she was just like, I'm hitting diamond. I am determined to make this happen. And she started calling people that she was not comfortable reaching out to, and she did it. You know, and it was all the people that were like, sure, I'll do that. That sounds great. But she'd been nervous. So it gives us this extra boost of bravery at the end of the month to be able to go out there and take massive action. And then, of course, as we know with our seeds, whatever we're doing now tends to show up a few months down the road, right? So if you're going into massive action at the end of February, March is going to be a huge month for you, right? So it's just this. Yeah, Monica went up 5,000 points in her last 2 days when she hit diamond, because she just was like, I'm doing it. And all the little resistances and all the little stories and all the reasons why could not stand up in the face of her conviction and her determination. And it was huge. It was so powerful. So, you know, really taking advantage of the secular, like the moon cycles in our garden, right? When you plant at the certain times in the cycle, that also gives boost to your garden. So, so this point in time, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the month, like, whoa, right? Or it can feel like a huge gift, like a huge ally, that it's supporting us to get bigger in ourselves and take more action and expose more people and really do the service to them, that, you know, putting them first and seeing that this is really ultimately our mission is to change and improve the quality of life of many, 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 many more people than we have already. So Ashley and then Noam, did you guys want to share? See your hand.
Yeah. I'll hop on here. Ooh, thanks so much, Mama. I absolutely just adore this topic and the analogy. Something that was coming through for me that I just wanted to drop in and share real quick about how this really, building a beautiful garden and gardening, it's very simple. Gardening's actually very simple. It's like there's these basic principles that just, you know, if you plant seeds in the ground and you water them, some of them will grow. And it's very simple, but it's not easy. And it's not easy because we're dealing with the elements and we're dealing with different types of soil conditions and different types of seeds and all that. And it's like, but if you're consistent and if you keep doing it, you will get food. If you have a plot of land and you dedicate yourself to it, you eventually will get food. But there are all these conditions that make it look different for everyone. So I feel like network marketing in this industry and this company and the platform we're given here is the same way, in that it's very simple. It's really simple. It's so simple. We're sharing these amazing products. We're sharing this amazing business model. We have great tools to support us, but it's not always easy because we are dealing with people. We're dealing with their resistance. We're dealing with all sorts of things and, you know, people's limitations and things like that. So I just wanted to really reiterate for people who are here, who are brand new, if you're looking to grow something big, I mean, think about a business and a garden. When I think about a permaculture, I'm like, oh, for a permaculture, that would take at least 5 years. So that's what I'm dedicating to my business. I mean, here, I feel like I'm here for life, but you know, having that long-term vision so that you can show up and be married to the process and not get stuck on individual conversations, on individual experiences, on individual people. And so with that, I just wanted to like share a real quick story for people who might be feeling though that I've shared with everyone I know and nothing's happening, nothing's moving. The power of this business model that we have and how things can start to move. Real quick story. My biggest builder, Jessica Sage, she was the very first gift card that I shared. Very first girl I shared with. I was so excited. She was fired up about the business. She had some things come up in her personal life, and she ended up just not engaging with the business for about a year and a half. A year and a half went by, And she randomly had someone reach out to her through Instagram and say, hey, I want to order Purium through you. I've been wanting to do a cleanse, you know, like I know about Purium. I really vibe with you. Like, I'd love to order it through you. So Jessica was like, oh, okay. Like, reached out to me. Ashley, like, do I still have gift cards? Like, how does it work? I'm like, cool. So this woman that she shared this gift card with got her product, had such an amazing experience that she got a launch pack and hit executive in 1 month. And therefore Jessica hit executive, was like, wow, okay. You know, Jessica, it activated her in the business. And she now is totally in it with me. She's still my biggest builder. She's running with me. So it's so beautiful. Like, we're like in a gardening co-op, you guys. All right. You're not gardening alone. That's the beautiful thing, is we're all here gardening together, and, you know, your down team and your up team and like sideline. It's just this beautiful thing where we're all supporting each other. So, having that big vision, being here for the long term, and just being married again to the whole long process of your garden, not those individual plants or things that happen, or like that, you know, gopher that comes and eats a whole set of crops. Like, it's all good. That'll happen in your business too. Just keep going, keep growing, and like soon you'll be feasting if you're not already, you know. So I love you guys. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Ashley. That was awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's like fall down 9 times, get up 10. And the people who are really succeeding in this business are the ones who can just stick through all the things that aren't working for long enough for some like miracle to come in. It's so nonlinear. It's like so incredibly nonlinear that it sometimes can be really scary. Am I doing it wrong? Is it never going to happen for me? Right? But it's like, if we have that fertile soil, I mean, sometimes I go down to the beach and there's like tomato plants growing in some little piece of ground, and that's like in between the rocks. And I'm like, man, someone probably just ate a tomato down here, spit out part of it, some piece of it fell on the ground, and this little tomato plant is growing on the beach. Right? We just never know what's going to happen in these little miraculous things. If we give them some space to land, they will come, you know. But if we close up, if we like let all the weeds grow in our garden, then none of those special seeds will ever find their way. So, Noam, really quick, and then I have to jump. Actually, I have to jump off. So, well, Noam, go ahead.
Okay. I had just echoing a lot of what's been said, but I've been thinking about, as we talk, as I know we're coming to the end, I'm going to just summarize my summary, which is that in farming, for me, in real life farming, and also in this farming, it's all about the net gain. Like, every day that I farmed and a plant grew, a lot of stuff had to die. A lot of stuff had to go away. And at the end of every season, we lost some, we won some, but we want to make sure everything's moving forward. And the idea is that if I got one plant in my field that got a little bit of downy mildew or some bugs, am I going to have a huge dramatic fit and just plow under the whole field? No. And if I spend all day upset about the one plant that got downy mildew, I'm not helping any of the ones that are going to grow. So the sooner and the more gracefully we can invite failure and have failures and learn to process and move through them quickly, then the more time we can spend doing the things that are beneficial to us, not dwelling on things that we can't change. So as soon as you've got a plant that's just, unfortunately, for whatever reason, it got downy mildew and it's not going to make it, and you know that it could make all the other ones around it. As a farmer, when I was young, I'd spend a day worrying about it. I'd get angry and that, you know, or whatever, because my plants are all going to die. But after a decade of farming or longer, I realized as soon as you notice it, I go, just take that plant out. 1 minute, I'm done with it forever, moving right back on, focused on the plant. And so as we're talking and we're planting a lot of seeds, just really focusing on what we do want. And when things happen that aren't as favorable or the seeds don't grow as fast, it's just the same idea that we've been over of knowing that all in good time and that we can't dwell on those things and we need to move on. So moving on from our failures for sure. And just the other thing that Sarah brought up was white sage. I have grown a lot of white sage. White sage is almost impossible to get to germinate. You actually will only get one plant or less for every 100 seeds that you sow, even if you know what you're doing. And to sow white sage seeds, and this isn't about white sage, but to sow white sage seeds, you actually have to take a metal file, ideally, and you scratch every seed individually with a little metal file to replicate it getting eaten by a bird, scratched by the beak, digested, and pooped out. Then you have to take a propane hand torch, and after you put them in the plug flats, you burn them like a wildfire. And without those 2 steps, none of them will come up ever. But I have planted in some years 10,000 white sage seeds from my old farm, and I got like 100 of them came up. However, those 100 plants were the strongest plants on my farm all year. So the point is if at first you don't succeed, if at first it seems there's 0% success, if you keep going, you'll see that actually there wasn't 0% success. It was just that it took longer to get success. But once you got success, that one sage plant that did grow, maybe those are your hard to get prospects, super powerful medicine. And like we said, those can be some of the strongest people. So don't give up on them. Don't just throw them away. Just consistently keep doing what would encourage those seeds to grow. And you may be surprised that one day one of those seeds will just come up in your garden. And I think that was about it. So thanks.
Be the white sage. File your seeds and blowtorch them. But don't blowtorch your arugula seeds, because then none of them will grow, right? So we have to be sensitive to what our seeds need and not what we need or want. In our process, we have to discover what they want, what's going to help them. So
yeah, and I was going to add one more thing, Sarah, was just that as we become really good farmers, we're going to develop all these tools so that we can grow and we can provide a nurturing environment for many types of seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Like white sage grows with fire, but if that's the only way I know how to grow plants, that will kill almost every other plant. You know, whatever, gotu kola likes to be drowned in water every day. But if that's the only way I can grow plants, then I'll kill almost all my plants. So as we become better farmers, as we understand the tools again that we have and different ways to approach different circumstances, we're going to be able to have better success for ourselves and provide better success and better opportunities for our team.
Perfect. Thank you. I want to give everybody an invitation right now. Take a golden nugget that you learned from this Zoom and go do a Facebook Live. Just a 5-minute Facebook Live about gardening, failure, germinating, developing yourself as a great farmer. And just go ahead and create some content on your wall that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with like sign up with me for Purium, but that's creating yourself, that's lifting you up as someone who has something really wise and beautiful to share so that you can build your audience. So use the hashtag BlissOhanaLive. I got to run, you guys. I'm doing a training video with David Litt for all y'all about going public. I got to Zoom him. Love you. Thank you, everybody. Drip, don't drown. Be the farmer, not the hunter.
Love you.
Rock out the end of February.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.